So as the Ultimate Wolverine series draws closer to the conclusion, with Logan, Jean, and David hunting for Illyana Rasputin, this story sets us up for what looks to be a crazy ending, with the chaos from Ultimate Endgame spilling over into this. So with that said, if you're enjoying these videos, be sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell up top to get all notifications. Alright, so coming back, first we pick up with Magik and Belasco, who prior to this she's really just referred to as the Inside Man, but this continues with her saying Belasco was obvious, those with power often are, as his power stagnated, as he felt content with his own self-imposed status quo. I built myself anew. What little power he stole from me, I let him take. It made no difference to me, because he never knew my true strength. Even I didn't know it, till then. But I learned, and I learned, and I learned. And when there was no more to learn, I acted. I longed for my family, especially Piotr. And in those dark moments of contemplation, I recalled something my father once told me. A man who does not act is a fool. And I asked him then, and what about a woman? He laughed. A woman, he said, with a smirk, would be 1,000 steps ahead. He was not wrong. Father really was. Belasco was too blind, too arrogant to think beyond himself. I took advantage of this. As Belasco's life essence flickered, the energy he vampirically stole from me solidifying into my own soul sword, he muttered one final word, child, a demeaning reproach meant to keep me in my place. But I had no one except Belasco to thank, for I was no longer a child. I had wisdom and age and youth and innocence all at once in this broken mirror of a realm. The minute I stepped into this dimension, I, Illyana Rasputin, shed my mortal skin and was reborn. Here I am queen. Here I am Magik. So yeah, this now comes in as the final bit of detail to build on top of the drip feed of her origin to show us how this Illyana became the ultimate Magik that we know. And following this, when we go back to Wolverine, Phoenix, and Sentinel-1, who are currently on the outskirts of the Eurasian Republic and not too far from Latveria, where it's popping, it's here where we get a bit of overlap from what we've seen in Ultimate Endgame, or at least the question being raised by Jean if that is what they're looking at here, because she asked Logan if what's happened in Latveria spilled over into the ER. But as it stands, neither of them are sure. All they know now is that it's possible that some of the symptoms may have made their way here, but when they arrive, they see a soldier in the distance getting busy with his bayonet. And it has Logan mentioning here, they say mutants are the next evolutionary step for mankind, that we're better. We got powers and abilities that make us special, make us gods on Earth. So why the heck do we still do this to each other? I get to thinking about what makes us better, about what that really means. Better. It's another one of them words. Because I think when folks say it, they think it means we're some higher thing, closer to God, if you believe in that sort of thing. But me, I think it means something else. What I think those folks forget is that humans are animals, biology. They're driven to hunt, to kill. It's in their nature. And if we're better, maybe we're just better killers. And it's like, man, that's deep. And now as they see this guy in the distance, Jean tries to get a read on him, but it's difficult for her to do. And she says his mind is like a tangle of vines. Like there's a partition, but she can't quite will it in. And at this point, Crazy Man, he done spotted them. And what's wild is when Jean tries to work her way through and figure this guy out. She's like, there are too many thoughts, thousands of thoughts, hundreds of thousands, like he's possessed. And Wolverine's trying to keep up, like, what you mean? Possessed? And she's like, no, it's an infection. So he's like infected with what? Rabies? Then Jean's like, oh. And Logan's like, what is it? He's literally like, yo, I'm not a mind reader. Like, tell me what you seeing. And that's where Jean tells him he's been programmed. And now we know prior to this, there's been the whole situation with Directorate X and their mental programming methods. Both Jean and Logan are very familiar with this. But also to take this back to their question of if this is some of the events from Latveria spilling over into the Eurasian Republic, this goes back to what we saw in Ultimate Endgame, where starting with the people of Latveria, there were reports of numbers of them getting infected after being exposed to what was likely the maker's microplastic spores that were designed to remodel minds into receivers. And now given that Logan, Jean, and Sentinel-1 are close to this area, it would make sense that this infection or this programming has made it this far. But given the way how this plays out when this guy attacks, I'm led to believe that there's a bit more going on here. Because when Jean tells Logan that this guy's been programmed, though she can't tell how exactly, the dude just comes rushing in and Logan's like, well, yeah, he looked eager to talk. And it appears to be a language that Logan is very fluent in. And for a brief moment, Jean's like, wait, maybe we can fix him. Like maybe she can try and go in his mind again and sort this out. But this guy doesn't even give them a chance. But to Logan's credit, he at least disarms this guy first. It's quick and clean, Logan knocks him back and Logan's like, hey, don't you move. Only for the dude to look at him with his familiar blank white eyes and all the blood dripping from his teeth. which again has Logan looking like, hey, don't even think about it. But of course, this guy goes for the attack, and an overhead at that, just to get hole punched and drip his dirty blood all over Logan's $200 suit, hitting them corners too hard. But immediately after they take him down, it's pretty clear to them that this guy wasn't of his own mind. And when Logan calls this out for what it is, and he's like, I've been there, he tells Jean that she has too. But it's still really fresh for Jean, so she doesn't want to get too deep into it. But also while they're here, the blood that it came out of this guy and dripped on top of Logan's head, it gets into his eye. And before you know it, both of his eyes are red. And as this is happening, Jean's like, wait a minute, those voices. I still hear those voices. They've dimmed, but they're still there. And now this opens a whole new can of problems with Logan just flipping out and grabbing his head, because what we saw going on with the soldier has just traveled from his blood over to Logan. So when Jean and Sentinel-1 rush in to try to help Logan out, he just goes feral and he bites Jean, which is crazy, but I can imagine this moment going a lot worse. But immediately she's begging Logan to stop and to try and fight it. So David comes through blasting him, and I mean hard. Like it's got Logan tumbling down the street. And that's where Jean's like, I don't know if that'll keep him down. So David's just like, it may. But then when Logan gets back up and starts growling, then David's like, or it may not. And when Logan gets up with his intestines hanging out like hot spaghetti sliced out of a grocery bag, he just takes off. So that has Jean and David like, yo, we can't let him out on the loose like this. And Jean says here, whatever was in that soldier's blood is spread to Logan. That's got to be it. We need to hunt him down now, before it's too late. And I'll say, even with this happening to Logan, with us seeing him run away into isolation like an actual Wolverine, when he does this, it's almost like this is him trying to fight it. Because Logan's biggest fear when it comes to mind control is the possibility of him hurting someone he cares about. And for Ultimate Wolverine, that's happened too many times already. So I wouldn't put it past the idea of this being his attempt to keep them safe. But Jean and David are able to track him down fairly quickly, with Jean sensing him with her telepathy, and David using the Sentinel gear to track the blood trail. And I'll admit, even now, concern for me would have to be that bite that Logan gave Jean, because that can't be a good thing down the line. But as Jean and David head into this barn that Logan is retreated into, she tells David that she has this plan where they're going to try to trap him, or at least she thinks they can, and after that they can try to break through. And David's like, try. And Logan overhears a portion of this as they get closer. As Jean tells David, what other choice do we have? We have to save him. He's one of us. So Jean tries to talk to Logan because she knows he's close enough to hear her. And that's what she says, Logan, I know you're in here. I know that something has a hold of your mind, but I want you to try to remember. A few weeks ago, you told me that if you ever turned again, you wanted me to take it out of you. Let me help you. Do you remember that, Logan? And that's where the reprogramming in Logan's mind gets the best of him, because he goes to attack, only for Jean to stop him in midair in a way that is arguably just as terrifying. So just as planned, she ends up passing Logan off over to David so he can hold Logan down while she helps him out. And really seeing this just reminds me of how this Sentinel body that David is using, it was literally designed to apprehend mutants. So in a way, it's kind of perfect for what they're looking to do here, but also with thinking about David's previous role with the opposition, with how he would go into the minds of mutants who were formerly controlled by Directorate X, and it kind of had me thinking like, man, now he kind of has the perfect setup for handling a mutant who's gone out of control and helping them get back into the right mind. And when I first read this, I thought that's what we were going to see when Logan first lost it. But as Jean mentioned, he did ask her to help him. So that's the kind of help he's about to receive. But aside from this, just based on the question of if this is indeed coming from the maker's microplastic maker spores that we were told is literal machinery that remodels minds into receivers, I wouldn't put it past the idea that the maker's reception to these minds outside of the city have been cut off, thanks to Immortus and what we saw him doing in Limbo. And even though at the time we were specifically told this wasn't the hell dimension ruled by Ileana, with Immortus referring to his Immortus engine as a way to steal time so they're nowhere and everywhere at once. So I wouldn't say it was a direct doorway, but because Immortus's Limbo was made out of borrowed time, I can imagine when his engine was destroyed, a number of borrowed things that may have been thought to have been lost or defeated likely just went back when the engine was destroyed and time ran out. And really that just leaves the doorway open for a number of things. Because now it's like, is the maker's signal still cut off from the outside world? Did the destruction of the Immortus engine release something or someone who had been long gone? Who knows? Because all we've seen from these people who have been infected or reprogrammed, with their minds converted to be receivers, with no real answer of who or how many people are trying to send a signal through to them. So really this whole situation has us waiting to see what or who exactly is going to start speaking clearly at any point in time. But as David's holding Logan here, or at least trying to, Jean tells him here like, hey, Logan, this will hurt. as Jean subtly hits the iconic Dark Phoenix pose here. Let me see what you're doing. And she burns Logan as a way to cook this infection or this programming out of him until she can't hear the voices anymore. And what's crazy about this is when she tells David to let Logan go so he can just lay there and heal, at first he just lays there, sizzling and not breathing, just unresponsive. It's kind of got David like, whoa, is he dead? And even Jean's not certain, like, no, he can't be. But eventually they see Logan's healing factor kick in. And even as he's reconstructing, Jean's just like, please be all right. Please be all right. And David's like, why hasn't he opened his eyes? And their concern is kind of funny because they're mad nervous. But eventually when Logan starts to open his eyes, he says to them, I got her. And that's where Jean's like, Logan, what do you mean? Who do you mean? And Logan says her, Illyana Rasputin. I saw her. Place called Limbo. And I think I know how to get to her there. Because as Logan continues the monologue from earlier, he's like, better. That's the word, all right. You know, pertaining to mutants being better killers. And he says here, yeah, I think I'm starting to understand. And this is crazy to see because this just might lead them to Latveria and to the Maker City as more of the Ultimate Universe starts to align. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all your support. And for anyone who's new here who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below where you can go to patreon.com/dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. All right, later.